Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of My Favorite Norn Scripts. Today I'm going to be covering Infinite Digit's new musical emission spectrum script. This is a really interesting one, so I'm going to get right into it. Before I get into the main page controls, I want to explain what the script does. For convenience, I'm going to refer to it as MES for short. MES is broken up into 4 sectors. These sectors correspond to pitches of a scale from low to high. Each sector has a different number of voices, with the middle 2 sectors having the most, the lower sector having less, and the high sector having the least. If you're using the script in generative mode, the notes will be seated in each sector. You can also use MES as a resonator and feed it either external audio or audio from Norns. Now onto the controls. Buttons 2 and 3 are used for navigating between the different sectors. Encoders 2 and 3 are used for adjusting the range of the current sector. A wider range will give you more pitches to pull from, and a narrower range will give you fewer. The final set of controls on the main page are accessed by holding button 1 and turning any of the 3 encoders. Encoder 1 will adjust the volume of the current sector, encoder 2 will change the attack value of the current sector's amp envelope, and encoder 3 will affect the release. A lot of the controls for this script are only accessible from the parameters menu. Like always, I'll be going in order from the top. The first submenu is the delay menu. The first control is for the volume of the delay. Rate sets the speed. Feedback sets the feedback level. And pan controls the pan. The next submenu is for crow. I don't use crow, so I won't be covering this. Next we have the gating submenu. This introduces a gator effect to the audio. The gating control is a dry-wet control. Gating LFO is a dry-wet control for the sine LFO, and LFO period controls the speed of the LFO. The LFO is added in addition to the gate effect. The final control here is the gate pattern. There are 20 patterns, and you'll need to listen to them to see which one you like the best. The kick submenu is for controlling the internal kick. Amp controls the volume of the kick. Preamp is another gain stage and allows you to overdrive the kick to get a more distorted sound. Bass frequency sets the bass frequency of the kick. Ratio controls how much modulation is being applied to the kick. At 1, the kick is just a sine wave, but at 20, it sounds noticeably more clicky and can be pitch modulated with the next control. Sweep time sets the duration of the pitch envelope. The next 3 controls are for the decay time of the kick. Clicky will introduce a click sound to the kick in percent and can be used to make the kick punchier. The final 3 parameters are for controlling the Euclidean sequencer. The first control sets the number of steps of the sequence, the second control sets the number of notes, and the third control will rotate the sequence. The next submenu is the source menu. This acts as a mixer for the 3 sources of audio. Noise is the sound of the different sectors' notes. Input is the audio coming into Norns, and loop is a file from Norns that will be looped. The external input and loop can be fed into the engine and will activate the resonator. Infinite Digits recommends using hermit leaves with the resonator, and I definitely agree. The last submenus are for the different sectors. These are all identical, so I'll just be going over sector 1. Start and end control the width of the sector. These values will reflect the range you set on the main screen. You can think of these as 48 notes of whatever scale you've chosen. For example, if you set the range from 1 to 7, it will cover the 7 notes of the first octave. Amp sets the volume of the sector. Attack will set the attack time of the amp envelope. Attack spread sets the max possible attack value. If you set this to any value greater than 0, then the attack time will be randomly chosen up to that time. We have the same sort of controls for decay next. Ring controls the resonance of the bandpass filter. At 0, it's just noise. At 1, the noise is fully filtered and we just hear the frequency band. We get a spread control for this parameter as well. Absorb/emit is a balance control between the resonator and sine wave generator. At fully absorb, we only hear the resonator. At fully emit, we only hear the sine wave. The last 2 controls here are MIDI related and used for sending MIDI out from the current sector. Now back to the main parameters page. Amp sets the overall volume. Timescale is a scalar that applies to all attacks and decays. As you decrease the value, all attacks and decays become shorter, and as you increase it, they become longer. Scale mode lets you select the scale you want the pitches to be quantized to. Root note sets the root note of the scale. Generative will toggle on or off generative mode. If this is on, then notes will be continuously seeded, but if it's off, then notes will only be triggered when played with MIDI or the grid. Finally, we have the MIDI in controls. MIDI in will set the device MIDI will be received from, and MIDI in sector will set which sector receives the MIDI notes. One thing to note here is that MIDI is automatically quantized to whatever scale you've chosen. The grid controls for this script are a bit of an enigma. The pitches are laid out chaotically and exploring is encouraged. The pitches increase from top to bottom, but other than that, you're just going to have to play around with it to get a feel for where certain notes are. I've been really enjoying my time with this script. It reminds me of fall or raindrops in the sense that it's a tool for composition, but also a piece of art that can be appreciated on its own. I found myself just listening to this run for close to an hour. Infinite Digits never disappoints, and I want to give a massive thank you to him for sitting down with me to explain some of the parameters I couldn't wrap my head around. I love how many ways there are to interact with this script, and I've had a lot of fun experimenting with the different input sources. That's going to do it for today. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any topics or scripts you'd like to see me cover in a future episode, leave a comment below. I'll see you next time.